Okay, welcome to Bitrix24 Live. I am Damien, I'm Commercial Manager here at Interface. We are Bitrix24 partners based in the UK, New York and Dubai, and with me I have Andy Naylor, who's our Support Manager.
Hi guys, if you've got any questions throughout this hour live session, then just put them in the box on YouTube, or you can tweet us at Interface, or you can send an email at any time to live@interface.com and we can answer them. And if you've got any questions throughout the week as well, please fire them in to one of those methods and we can answer them on the next session, because this takes place every Thursday at 10 AM Eastern Time. So if we don't cover your question today, we can cover it next Thursday on the next session.
Okay, and we've got a couple of questions that have come in by email previously, so we'll start by going through those. I am evaluating your solution to implement a CRM and integrate with our platform. The integration will consist of inserting platform clients into Bitrix, among other things. Can you show me examples of integration? So, not too sure what you mean by platform clients, but I guess you're referring to implementing or integrating your Bitrix system with other systems out there. There is a number of different ways that you can do this. So let's go through some of the ways that you can connect your Bitrix system with other systems that you're working with. First place to start will be Marketplace. So we can, if we look into categories, maybe click on all, and you can just see the sort of number of pre-built integrations that Bitrix has available. 5 pages of these, so we've got in excess of 150 pre-built integrations with platforms such as Xero, Zendesk up here, MailChimp's a popular one, FreshBooks. So these are normally developed, PayPal integration there, these are normally developed by third parties, and generally available, I think, generally available free of charge. There might be some upgraded version of the app which is chargeable, but generally available to install free of charge. So I guess if we just scroll through a couple of these to have a look at what's available, quite a lot of integration with other CRM systems, so Pipedrive, Zoho up here, telephony integration here, and popular app Evernote.
Yeah, these, just to point out that these applications are, if you've got a cloud product, these applications are available on the cloud as well as the on-premise version, so you can integrate them on whatever account you've got of Bitrix.
Yeah, for sure. See if there's any kind of names that stick out here. Quite a lot of tools like VAT calculator, percentage calculator, quite a sort of little tools and widgets that are available. They all do different things, they all work in different areas of the system. So I think as Andy says, they're free to install on any edition of Bitrix, cloud, self-hosted edition. So I guess give them a go. If that does what you want it to do, if they do what you want it to do, then great. If they don't, there's an opportunity to contact the developer, I guess, to ask them to make some changes, to ask them for a quote to make some changes to the app. But I guess that should be your first starting point. Other ways of integrating with Bitrix, it depends what you want to do, but Bitrix integrates with your email provider. So you can sync incoming emails into records in the CRM. Bitrix will integrate with your telephony system if you're using a system that has some pre-built integration with it. If we go into here, yeah. So if you're using one of these telephony systems, then Bitrix will integrate with that again for free. You don't need for telephony, you don't need to integrate with another system. You can use the built-in IP phone system within Bitrix, rent your number through Bitrix, make your calls through Bitrix. So you've got the apps, you've got the email, you've got the telephony. I guess, depending on what you want to do, if we went into the CRM, there's ways to integrate, particularly in the CRM, with other systems using webhooks. So again, this will be available. On any edition. So if I go into the automation tab, we've looked at this quite a few times on these live sessions. But if I go into the automation tab, then you can see you can use webhook up here. Okay, so you can use a webhook, which is a way to post information to another system or retrieve information from another system. You can use that as a trigger to action one of these processes inside Bitrix, or you can indeed use it as a rule, an action or an activity in this process. So you can indeed you can use one of the standard integrations available inside Bitrix, or you can use the API. So we have an API available on the self-hosted version.
Yeah, so if we go into, we've got an example, especially in business processes, we work with a lot of clients that want to connect their CRM up, maybe with their accounting package, maybe it's not on the application store. So, for example, if PayPal wasn't on, we've done an integration on here with PayPal. So if we go into one of these, for example, I'll just show you a little bit. If we go into the automation side of things again, and actually go into something that we've done on our demonstration site here, then you can actually see, if we go into, I think go into here, I think we've actually created a module for this, to be honest. And yeah, so basically, especially with the self-hosted version, you've got quite an open API, and as long as the application that you're trying to connect to has an API as well, then we can try and work out how we can connect those two together.
One area I didn't cover is open channels. So we'll look at that. So if you want to connect to another social media platform, such as Facebook, Instagram, Skype, Slack, and other platforms, you can use built-in Bitrix Open Channels tool, which will allow you to not so much develop custom integration, but allow you to manage those communications on those other channels inside your Bitrix application. So I think maybe you want to follow up with that question, but I think if there's an app available within the marketplace that does the integration for you, I'm guessing that's the route that you would need to go. I'm guessing that actually you've got a platform in mind. It's probably another accounts platform or a project management platform or something that you need to integrate with. If it's not available in the marketplace, then it would be a case of developing that integration for you. And depending on if that can be done through webhooks, then you can do that on most commercial editions of Bitrix. If there might be, it might be the case that you need to go to a self-hosted edition to do some more advanced integration, but it depends on what the requirements are. If you want to get in touch with us about exactly what your requirements are, we can discuss how that might work.
So we've got another question come through about managing multiple business. This person's got 3 businesses that they want to use Bitrix for. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Bitrix offer an on-premise package called Enterprise, and what that allows you to do is it allows you to create multiple divisions of Bitrix. So we could, for example, in our case, if we had 3 companies, we could have one version of Bitrix on portal.interface.com. We could have another on portal.yourcompany.com and another division on yourcompany.com too. So it's a case of you can have multiple businesses all controlled by one control panel in Bitrix, and each one would be divided with an overall global system as well, so you could post out messages to each business on there.
So you need the self-hosted edition for this. With the self-hosted, you get this access to this control panel section as an administrator. Here you can edit pages and sections using these wizards, but you also get access to a back end which allows you to configure the system in a lot of different ways. And so yeah, a much more advanced system. In addition to being able to create separate divisions, it's a much more advanced system that has a lot more functionality and can be configured to work exactly the way you want it. I think with being running multiple businesses, so the divisions are separate. The divisions allow for some separation, but they're not completely separate in that you as a user can discover somebody from another division by using the search tool at the top. So if we were to type in here, we would find other users in other divisions and then essentially be able to communicate with them. So you don't have that complete full separation, and that works well for some businesses. Some businesses don't need complete separation by division. I think another area where you might want to have different divisions, like Andy mentioned, is like if you have different operations in different countries and they want to use different languages, then Bitrix is multilingual, so you can set a default language for a particular division, and yeah, that would be a kind of main use for that. So I think one of the main reasons for choosing an enterprise edition would be the fact that you can create multiple divisions. That's the main sort of benefit of the enterprise product over the standard business products.
Yeah, we've worked with clients in the past, like David mentioned, with multiple regions for their business, but just a good point with the enterprises, and it's possible if you set your company structure up properly, you can base your CRM permissions around each individual area as well. So you theoretically your CRM is possible to have for each business, which would be separate.
I think just to be clear that divisions is a feature of the self-hosted on-premise edition of Bitrix. In fact, it's a feature of the enterprise version of those self-hosted or on-premise divisions. It might be that actually you don't need one of those editions, and actually you can set up exactly what you need on one of the cloud or one of the more basic on-premise editions. So Bitrix at the core has work groups, and it might be that actually you create a division or you create a work group for each business that you operate, and in this way you can create work groups which are private, so other members of other groups or other parts of your business would not be able to access the activity inside a work group. So things like lists and drives and tasks, calendars, some other tools available inside work groups would be available to all those people working in that particular business. You could configure some of the menus again. I think if especially if you had a self-hosted version, you could actually create some permissions on these menu items here, so that if you belong to one particular business, you would see one set of menus, and if you belong to another business, you would see a different set of menus. So you could actually create quite a lot of separation by business using one of the lower cost editions of Bitrix. So it depends how you want to work, and if you got in touch with us afterwards, we could demo those sort of different options for you. But yeah, I think an automatic response to when you operate in multiple countries or you have multiple companies, there's an automatic response to believe that you need the enterprise version of a product, and it might be the case that you don't need that enterprise version to achieve what you want to achieve. Okay, is there a limit to the number of drop-down options I can have on a table? No, I mean when you talk to having it on a table, I'm assuming we're referring to creating a new custom field. So if we go into the CRM and we go into one of our modules in the CRM, we can add a field, and if we're talking about having a drop down, okay, so you might be creating a list as a drop down menu that you'll want to display in a field within the CRM. You can select the item list, and then you can add multiple options to this. Is there a limit to it? Not that I know of, but I don't think we've come across a limit. I think practically that there might be some problems when the list gets so long that it won't display on a page, although it would scroll. I think within reason there's not a limit to that. Just go back, because it might be that you're looking at some slightly different area. You might be looking at statuses and drop downs. So the existing, let's go into a company record and open this up. So there's some existing drop down fields that you'll have out of the box when you buy Bitrix. These fields can be, so it might be referring to these fields can be amended in the more and settings links over here. In the start page, status and drop down. So if we go into here, we can see company type was the one I was just looking at, I think, or get company type, and you can add additional ones here to this list. So I think if we just click back in, I think you could have a much larger number of drop downs than you have available in here. So I think the answer is no. There's no restriction. There's no restriction as such on that. These sort of fields can be drop downs, or they can be tick boxes. Different ways of displaying them on this page. So no, I don't think showing any problems with that.
So I've got a question come through on YouTube. We're now looking at installing Bitrix and wondering what is the best practice to separate the extranet from the local instance of Bitrix. So, I mean, what you can do with the extranet, obviously your license allows you for your two sites, so you can have your intranet and your extranet. In terms of configuring it on your server, you probably need to just get in touch with us if you want to completely have it on a separate instance. I'm not sure of the possibilities of that. I know that with the extranet you can have it on a completely separate domain, so you can see here this is our intranet, and if we click on extranet you can have it completely separate from where your intranet is in terms of the actual domain name. And so yeah, obviously you would need an on-premise version of that. And you can brand the two completely separately as well. So you can brand your intranet as one and have a login page for your intranet. And like I say, if it's on a completely different domain, you can have a completely separate login screen.
Can you choose a separate domain on cloud?
I don't believe so. I think if you're installing Bitrix, with regards to what that question was, if you're installing Bitrix, I would assume that you're on the on-premise version. So yeah, you wouldn't be able to.
I think it would always have a separate URL essentially, but I don't know whether you can kind of specify. It will sit in a subfolder, won't it? A separate folder. So the address would be, of course, the address needs to be different. I think also when you're promoting access to this site, if you want to give your clients and suppliers access to this extranet area, you don't need to give them the specific address. You can give them the main address that you use, whether that's yourcompany.bitrix24.com. The extranets might sit on /extranet or a subfolder of the main domain. You can still give them the main address without the additional subfolder, and the user will check your authority to access the site. If you're just an extranet user, it will redirect you to that area. So I think they do essentially exist as two separate instances, and so there's no kind of possibility of an extranet user being asked to access your internal data, unless of course you invite them in as a main user and put them in a department incorrectly. So I think when you invite people in to Bitrix on the cloud, there's a process where you're asked to invite them in as a main user or an extranet user. When similar process on the self-hosted edition, or you can do some other ways. There's some other ways of doing it on there. Okay, so it's fairly clear. If you invite them in as the right one, then they're going to get access to the features that you need them to access. And I think, yeah, as it's done here, it's asked which group they should belong to, and it's only suggesting groups which are extranet groups. So these ones that are coloured orangey yellow, they are extranet groups. I think main groups are blue or something. So you can clearly see that you're not, by mistake, giving them access to a group. Of course, if these groups, if you create a work group for each of one of your clients, you need to make sure you put them in the right group. In fact, we kind of recommend doing this from the CRM. You would need a self-hosted version edition for this, but you can run a process in the CRM that would convert this CRM entity into a user of the system and send them an email with an invite with the URL, a username and a password. So by choosing to run it as a process, triggering a process in here, simple for people to do, but also it has to run it in a set way, so they are going to be invited in as an extranet user to the appropriate work groups, and there's no way that somebody can input the wrong thing in a field and give the wrong people permission to access a group.
Just to follow up on that, is there best practice security? Is there any security concerns since it sits on the same host? I don't believe shouldn't be any, well, there isn't any that we're aware of, any security concerns. I think Bitrix has a very powerful permission structure, and as long as you're setting up the users in the correct way and the way that you would set up an extranet user, there wouldn't be any security concerns in terms of users accessing areas that they shouldn't or anything like that.
Absolutely not, because every time you reload a page, every time you click from one page to another, you are checked, your authority is checked, so you have to authorize every time you open a new page, and so there's no way you can access a page, even if you knew the URL of that page, which you didn't have permission to access. If you navigate to a page you don't have permission to access, if you somehow were able to know the URL of it, it would block you. It would say this page is not available, or you don't have access to this page. So the fact that it's on the same server has no relevance really to security. The main issue around security here is the user. So making sure that they invite people into the right groups as an extranet user rather than as a main user, and that's why we recommend creating a process like this. Is it worth looking at that process? Is there much on that process?
I don't think there is, to be honest. I don't think you can go wrong as long as when you're creating an actual work group that you make sure it's an extranet work group and then inviting the users in. I think it is handy, obviously, certainly to have your contacts converted to an extranet user and put in the correct group. But using the standard way, it's extremely straightforward. You can add an external user here if they already exist, or just invite them in. And then all the extranet user really does is get access to all the features within that extranet work group. So it's very secure, and it's pretty simple to add the users. I think with the extranet users, you obviously get an unlimited amount, so for free. So there's no additional charges, no user licenses getting taken up. So for example, if you've got a limited users, if you've got 50 users, for example, you could theoretically add 1,000 extranet users and be charged no more for that. So that's another good feature of having and inviting the extranet users in.
Yeah. We've got a follow-up question on that. Is my info safe if I use your server? So if you choose a self-hosted version, you can host it in-house on a machine in-house. You can rent space on a web server such as Amazon Web Services, or you can use the server we have ready, and we can create an instance for you on our server. Is my info safe? We use a Google Cloud platform. We have never had any downtime. Same if you're using the Bitrix Cloud editions, and as far as I know, they've never had any downtime in 6 years. So, in terms of accessibility, there's that level of reliability. Is my info safe? There's a number of security built into the application itself. With the self-hosted, you can, and there's obviously server security built into the server side as well. With the self-hosted, you can run kind of checks within the background. I think performance checks that actually regularly check security scanner here, which regularly checks the performance of your site against sort of known threats. So a number of different ways. The main error, the main reason why your security might be at risk is users not keeping passwords secure. So you can, on the self-hosted, you can set password lengths. So you can and password types. You can require them to use different types of characters within password. And have who's doing this? Bolding these then. Okay, I think we had some technical problems there, but I think we should be back. We should be back online now. Okay. Can I create? Well, we were just talking about server security. I don't know if you heard the end of that, but basically, if the question was about if the data is safe if held on our server. Of course, we have internal procedures that restrict access to your instance of the server to only those that need to have access to that. So I think, ultimately, if you're hosting it yourself, we would like to think that our server would be the safest environment for you. If you have experience of setting up servers internally, then do that on Amazon or something similar, or on a machine locally, and we can support you with that. But I would say, your data is very, very safe, and the main risks to it are users exposing their password, really, that type of thing.
Just got a question on YouTube. Is there a way that if I create a task inside a work group, it automatically adds it to the client the work group is for? So if you're adding tasks in work groups, your client would generally have to be within that work group, especially if it's an extranet work group. So if we just jump into one, for example, here, then if you've got your client in an extranet work group, then when you create the task here, you would need to select that extranet user. So you would need to select that user here, and you would only be able to select the extranet user that one was particularly for. So there wouldn't be an automatic way of actually doing it. It's quite a quick way, obviously, because the responsible person fields here, we would just click on here, and then we could say we would find our extranet user here and add them into that particular task. So the client would need to be in this particular work group, otherwise they would never be able to see it. Because that's how extranet groups work, really. Once you invite your client into one, then they have access to just the work group that you invite them into. So they have access to all these features, and then they have access to the tasks, and you would add them to them.
I just wanted to show you another way of doing this. So if you have a self-hosted edition, then again, as we just looked at, I guess, you could create a process to create task for this user. So it would be possible to link a CRM contact to a live user in the system and run a process from here. It's a little bit complicated, I think, and would require a little bit of code to do that. But that, I don't know if that would answer the question or solve your problem, being able to generate a task from a contact.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think you would. I don't think you would need to do that way. I think you would just create the task while you're in the work group. I think that's the quickest way, because that user is already in that extranet work group. So I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean there is. Yeah, absolutely. Are you compliant with new GDPR rules? So Bitrix will be launching an update fairly soon, which will include tools to allow you to fully comply with those new data regulations. If you have a self-hosted version, then all the sort of reports you need to do to extract data can be created. You can probably run most of the reports on the standard cloud edition that you need to right now, but there will be some updates released soon that will make the system fully compliant.
Just got a follow up to that one with regards to adding a client in the CRM section. So I don't believe, I mean, we couldn't run a process on creating a task, but when you do create the task here, you can actually select, find your client in here, we can easily assign them. So there is a good tool to associate tasks to clients within the CRM just by clicking on select, and then that task would then appear in that particular contact's activity stream.
Yeah, it should appear in should then appear in their it should then appear in their history down in their history. Sorry, in their live task. It will appear in their live tasks up here until the task is closed.
And alternatively, if you wanted to go the other way around and create the task via the actual client in the CRM, you could click on the task tool here, and it would automatically assign that task to the particular client.
So there's always different ways of achieving an outcome, and it's best, I guess, if you get some training with a partner, they can talk through the different ways of doing that. Some ways are better than others for your particular business. Can I buy more storage space without upgrading my package? Let's have a look in. Let's have a look in here.
I think we're already on the professional here.
Subscription. So yeah, I think. Okay, yeah, I can't show you in there. You would normally get. Oh, here we go. Upgrade. You'd normally get an option to select an upgraded package, but if you want to buy more space without upgrading, used to be available, but I don't think you can buy space now on its own. So essentially, upgrade to a package fairly, especially to go for from 24 to 100 gigabytes, and then unlimited. So yeah, that's it. It's kept quite simple to know what you get with each package, but you need to upgrade. Yes.
Just to point out that there is a promotion running today and tomorrow on both the cloud and the on-premise, and all cloud packages I've got 50% off for those 2 days, and all annual on-premise versions I've got 25% off. So it's just a flash sale because Bitrix is 6 years old today. So for the next 2 days, those sales are on. So get in touch if you do want to, if you are looking to purchase a package for Bitrix.
Question about how easy it is to integrate an existing CRM into Bitrix. Well, I would say you don't need to integrate your existing CRM. You should use the Bitrix CRM, one of the best, regularly voted one of the best CRMs, top 10 CRMs in the world, in Which Magazine, I think. So there should be no reason to use any other CRM other than Bitrix. That said, if you have a lot of users on your Salesforce or another system, if you've had a lot of work, customization done on that, it would have cost you a lot of money if you use Salesforce. You might want to stay with that for a period of time. And so it would be possible to integrate, I think, through applications again, or through the APIs. So look, see whether there's a category for CRM. So we can integrate with Zoho, quite popular. We can integrate with,
I think Sugar's another one that we can integrate with.
Let's go through these, see if there's any well-known ones in there. Another Zoho. Okay, migration tools. So if you want to migrate from one CRM into Bitrix, there's tools to allow you to do that. Pipe drives there. Again, that's a migration tool. So I think there is a couple pre-built integrations probably with other CRM systems, but probably the option would be to do that yourself through webhooks or through the API.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, like I say, that we deal with a lot of people moving into Bitrix, so there is a lot of tools where we can migrate the data from your existing CRM into Bitrix, whether that's your bringing in all your contacts and associating bringing in all your companies and associating your contacts. There's a lot of migration tools for that.
Will any updates cause my server to go down? So with the cloud, updates are applied. So Bitrix generally has two major product releases a year, and those will be applied in stages after launch to your instance automatically. Some will get it before others as it's rolled out. It won't cause any downtime, but you'll see those changes reflect inside your site. If you're using the self-hosted, then the updates are controlled within the marketplace. So you will see updates here, and you can choose to install those updates. You can actually choose to here we're allowing all updates, but we can switch this to only allow stable updates and not allow beta updates. On this trial site, we were allowing all updates. So in some ways, in self-hosted, you can get some of those updates that are not those beta updates, but they won't. But in either case, on self-hosted or on the cloud, they won't cause any downtime to the system. We recommend, if you're using the self-hosted, to apply updates out of working hours, but they won't cause any problems to you. We sometimes quite often develop kind of test environments for users who are on self-hosted who want to apply updates to a test environment before applying it to their live instance. So it's possible to do that sort of thing with self-hosted, where you can test things as they come through and see if they work for your business, see if they work with any customizations you've done. So it's not an option or benefit of having the self-hosted tool or instant edition.
Is there a limit to any limit to how many administrators can add to the system? No, it certainly isn't. So in both the on-premise and the cloud versions, you can have as many people as you want. We would usually say just try and keep it to as few as possible, really, because there are some privileges that administrators get, especially on the on-premise version, that they can access source code and things like that. So try and restrict it to as few as you possibly can. But if you did want to make a user an administrator on the system, you can go to companies and employees, and then edit an employee. We can see here, we can just click on the access level. So this is in the cloud. So like I say, we try and recommend, depending on the size of the company really, 2 to 4 administrators on the system is usually as many as you should have, because those administrators can set up your CRM, and like I say, on the on-premise version, you can access the settings of the system and the source code as well.
A question on email: is there a way to avoid that a workgroup external account invited by an internal account create tasks? So I think the question is, you want external users, extranet users, to not be able to create tasks, maybe just view them but not be able to create them. So we certainly can do that. Let's go into a work group. We'll look at the permission settings you have available within a work group. So if you go into access permission. So this is the new view. So yours should look like this. This is a new layout, but we go into tasks. So you've got various different permissions you can use here. Permission to view tasks. So your question is about permission to create tasks. So we can set this only for group owner. Don't think an extranet user can be a group owner. Certainly can't. No, they can't, can they? So you could restrict to group owners and moderators, or you can allow anyone to be able to create tasks. So I think if you were to restrict it to group owner, then your extranet users wouldn't be able to create tasks.
Yeah, I mean, how we would usually recommend to set up your your work groups is that there are 3 levels of ownership. So you've got your project owner, as Damien said, your project assistants, and then your members. What we would usually recommend is probably bring your employees, your employee users up into your moderators, so your assistants, and then leave your extranet users as your general members. So then, as like Damien said there, you can allow your, please scroll to tasks, allow your group owner and moderators, so that'll be your yourself and your employees to be able to create tasks, and then the members, who will be your extranet users, not to be able to create tasks. So that's how we would usually recommend.
Probably need to follow that on, so for people to be able to restrict them, if you want to restrict them from editing tasks, you could do that as well. So you can do permissions within the group inside here, who can post into the group on the activity stream, permissions on the photo gallery, permissions on who can access, all the same all the way through, again, as Andy says, based on who is, which position you hold within that group. You can define what they can do on the drive here and in the wiki as well. I mean, allow users to search content, so you could even restrict what they can search. So again, this button or this access to this permissions wouldn't be visible unless you are project owner, I guess, and check that. But it wouldn't be that somebody can change access. They wouldn't have access to this button here. Can my customers use the phone app? Will they log in the same way they do online? Can my customers use the phone app? So if you're talking about telephony, because there's different ways to have a voice call with somebody in Bitrix, 2 different ways. We can find a user using the search, or just see someone who's been recently online here, and we can video or voice call with that person using the messenger tool. Now that person can be, as we've got up here, I've got an extranet user, so we can communicate by chat message or voice or video call with that extranet user. We can call them, and they can call backwards, and so that's all free of charge. Can my customer use the phone app? Will they log into the system the same way we do online? So I think you're probably referring to this. Can they use this tool? If it's actually telephony that you're referring to, in that can they dial from the system to a landline or a mobile, then the answer would be no, they can't access that. And if you're on a mobile using the app on a mobile, then they wouldn't be able to. See if we can connect to.
Yeah, I think what they're referring to is can their clients use the mobile app, which is extranet users can log into the mobile app.
Yeah.
And get access to the features of their particular work group.
So you can, just to bring the phone up for a minute, you can, within the mobile app, you can make telephone calls. You can, just to quickly run through, you can review recent calls, and I can either call somebody who's a user of the system, so that's using the messenger, but I can also telephone somebody within the system. So if I go into here, I can use it as a soft phone to allow me to phone, a landline, or a mobile from within the app. So to do that, you need credit. You need to buy credit from Bitrix to do that. So you can restrict who can have access to that credit. So an extra user wouldn't be able to access that sort of credit in the system.
So we've got a question come through on YouTube. What has been your experience implementing Bitrix into a large organisation? What is the way to introduce the many functionalities it provides? So we've dealt with quite a wide range of companies. They each take their different approaches. It's best, we usually sit down with a client and discuss the possible ways of doing it. So, I mean, how we would usually do is phase modules in and start off with sample groups within that particular company, and then that brings it into certain groups within the company, and then it goes from there, really. And it all depends on what you want to use Bitrix for. Some elements of the good thing about Bitrix is that you can customize basically what you're going to use. So, for example, if you're not going to be using the project management side of things, we can take the work groups out. And some people don't use the CRM, and we can take the CRM out of that. So it's a case of rolling out Bitrix to, we would say, usually a sample group to start using it and testing it, and then releasing phase by phase the modules that you're going to be using.
Having a phased approach, a planned phased approach will be the key to this, as Andy said. So scoping out your requirements at a high level, or overall requirements, splitting that into planned phases, and then getting into the detail of each of those requirements at each phase, and keeping it in an agile approach to how it's implemented is our preferred way of working. So we can give you at the beginning of the project a good overview of how it's going to work for each individual phase, a good overview of the cost, what the costs are going to stack up but we would generally keep it and then dive into each individual phase at the beginning of that phase, firm up the cost based on the sort of detail of how each area of the system is going to work for you, and then deliver that phase, allow you to test it, make changes, train you, of course, so we can do the whole project for you, from designing the implementation plan to doing any customization and implementation work, to training you, and then doing this, obviously ongoing support for you. So different ways of doing it, but we kind of do an agile planned phase approach with an agile implementation approach. A question following up from the mobile phone app about how customizable the phone app is. Well, you can. Within the standard cloud edition, it's not customizable, although any custom fields that you create, for instance in the CRM, would be are visible in the mobile app. With the self-hosted, there is some ways to add additional functionality, or to remove some menu items, or rename some menu items. So there is some additional scope to customize the app on the self-hosted edition. Can I have the phone app? If I have the phone app, will calls come through to my phone via the telephony? If I have the phone app. So there's different ways of interpreting that question. I think if you have the Bitrix24 mobile application for iPhone and Android, then an incoming telephone call can be answered on that within the app, or a telephone call can be answered in the office and forwarded to a user who's using the app. They can pick the call up on their app mobile phone. So it depends. Your question is, if I have the phone app, will calls come through to my phone via telephony? So I guess that's what you mean by that. You can certainly answer calls from a desktop application in the browser or from the app, kind of works better to answer the phone through the app, I think. Provided you've got some good internet access through your mobile, if you're on Wi-Fi, then that works really well.
Yeah, we had a question come through just regarding can my customers use the help desk. So what the help desk is, it comes on the on-premise version. So we've got it set up on our system here. If we jump onto our extranet, and that's how, if you're asking if your customers can submit support tickets, that's how we would recommend having it. So on our extranet here, we have we put the help desk on there. So once your client logs in, they'll be able to see the support link on the left-hand side here. They click on that, and then they can submit a support ticket via that method. And the help desk is a powerful tool for answering. I mean, we use it here at Interface for our support to submit tickets, our clients. So they log into the extranet, submit the ticket, and a member of the support team will get a notification that a new ticket's been submitted. And you can do all sorts of things, such as SLAs, to make sure that the ticket gets answered on time. And not only that, your clients can submit a ticket via support at yourdomain.com, so at support at interface.com. The system can check if that user exists in your system, and if so, you can create a ticket. So to answer your question, yeah, your clients can submit tickets and your support agents can answer them pretty quickly, and there's quite a clear and transparent communication between the two.
Okay. Question: if you are managing multiple clients, each with their own separate goals and targets, how would you suggest setting up your Bitrix24? Should you have a separate Bitrix account for each client? I wouldn't suggest having a separate Bitrix account for each client. No, unless you are a marketing business and you want to provide a solution to your client, then create a separate account for that client, show them what it does, and allow them to use that account independently. Should you set up multiple accounts for your clients? I mean, unless you're talking about users. So obviously, we've discussed today, you can invite a extranet user into a work group, so you would have a separate user for each client. In fact, you would have maybe a number of users for each client that would be able to access then the client work group within your system. Should I have separate Bitrix account for each client? I don't know. I mean, I think it depends what you're really the detail of what you mean by the question. But you would certainly have separate client records in the CRM, of course. Is the question about inviting a client in and being able to share things and collaborate with them? Then no. The only reason why you would have an actual separate account for each client is if you wanted to, if you were providing sort of support, marketing support as a business, you could create an account for them and show them how it works, and they could use it independently.
Yeah, I think it all depends on what you mean by account, because for example, what we have here is we can use work groups for create a work group for your client, invite them in, and then manage all your marketing material within that particular work group. It's a good way to do it, and you can create tasks for your clients to show them the progress of whatever you're working on.
Okay, so I've got a follow-up question. You're managing marketing, so you want to build customer lists and drive leads for each client. So, if you invite a client in as an extranet user, they don't, under the terms of the Bitrix license, they cannot access any CRM data. So you can't issue a lead or assign a lead to an extranet user. It's not a problem. You can invite them in as a main user. Just give them some different permissions around what they can access in the CRM. Put them into a department. Create a department structure. If we quickly have a look at employees, create a department structure like this. Have a department maybe for each client. Distribute a lead to that particular client and have some permissions that state that they can only see leads from people within their department. So you might have a sort of client department here, and then each of your clients listed below as separate departments. That way you would limit what they can see in the system. So you could, if it is indeed you want to allocate an actual lead, an actual record within Bitrix CRM to them, you'd need to invite them in as a user, but make sure the permissions are suitable for them. If you had a self-hosted version, this will work really well. You could invite them into a work group and kind of post, you could create a custom page where you posted leads into. They wouldn't actually be the CRM leads as such, but they would be, you know, information relating to those CRM leads. But
yeah, I think you would need to do it on the self-host, because if you are creating a department for each client, once they log in, they'll have access to the activity stream, so they'll be able to communicate with everybody else in the business. So you probably wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want your clients talking to your other clients. So on the self-hosted, you could do quite a lot in terms of completely restricting them from doing so and finding other people and things like that. On the cloud, I think you may struggle a little bit.
So yeah, and it's right. If you put them in a department, then they're visible to other people. They can be discovered by other people. So I think that's our hour up. If you want to get in touch with us, there's our contact details. If you want to discuss in more detail any of those subjects that have been raised today, then email or telephone us. We can arrange a demo for you. If you need to see some evaluation, if you need to evaluate a particular process or tool in detail, we can create a trial or a demo or something for you, so you can see, you know, technically how it would work for your business. Okay, we do the same 1 hour every week at the same time. No require for registration. In addition, we have a webinars which you can register for every Monday if you go to intraface.com/webinars. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.